Hello, once again, I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we're reviewing The Witches, which is currently streaming on HBOMax. This is the 2020 remake of the cult classic from the 90s. Yeah. All right, joining me tonight is the one and only Dave Dreher. Dave, how you doing, sir?
Hello, H&R crew. How is everybody?
Don't you like saying that? Doesn't that sound great?
Yeah, but we don't get all four of us make it all the time. So
No,
it's nice to have us all here at the same time.
Yes.
Now let's all turn into mice now.
Oh, yeah, mices. Mouses, right? That's what he said, mouses. All right, also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, Chris?
I'm having a real hootenanny over here while I'm lollygagging around.
Oh, dear God.
I started to talk like this after watching this film. It's like a really southern dialect thing going on in this film.
Big time.
Address all comments.
I was like, that. I don't think that was. I don't think that was a Del Toro part. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, there's something to say there. All right. Also joining us is podcasting rockstar and international cosplay queen Vanessa Thompson. How you doing?
I am doing great. For some reason throughout this movie, I kept thinking, if you've got it, flaunt it, because some kind of accent kept reminding me of that.
I have no idea what it could be, but that's awesome.
From the producers.
Oh, okay. Yes, I got it down. Yeah. I totally went. I was thinking in the movie going, what are you talking about? All right. All right, so what we do here is we'll give our first impressions. We'll talk about the film a little bit, and then at the end we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. You want to stick around for that because that's where the fun begins. It's going to be great till then. Don't let me get it wrong there. But that's what you want to. That's where the payoff is. Yeah, man. All right, what are we doing tonight? We are doing The Witches, and this is the Robert Zemeckis 2020 remake of the was it Roald Dahl classic? Yeah. And it was supposed to come to theaters this October, but 2020 happened, and it went straight to HBO Max on October 22nd. It is based on the Roald Dahl 1983 classic book, The Witches. It tells the scary, funny, and imaginative tale of a 7-year-old boy who has a run-in with some real-life witches. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Robert Zemeckis and Kenya Barris, along with Guillermo del Toro. Wow. The cast includes, but is not limited to, Chris Rock, Jahzir, Bruno, Octavia Spencer, Brian Bovell, Stanley Tucci, Anne Hathaway, and Kristen Chenoweth. Yes, that is right. So let's do this. Let's give our first impression, shall we? And Vanessa, you're up first.
Me first?
Yeah.
I felt like this was really a kid's movie. That's kind of my first impression. I was very surprised at how kind of different the tone felt from the one from the 90s. And I have to say, in my first impression, I really, 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 really missed the practical effects. That really kind of gutted me a bit. I'll keep it short because I think we'll get into it.
Wow, to the point. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Dave Dreher, you're up next. What is your first impression of The Witches?
Well, I agree completely with Vanessa. This had all the feels of a Disney film or something of that.
Amblin, right? Amblin, yeah.
Amblin, yeah. Disney. Huge. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. I kept waiting for them to break into song and start dancing around. With that being said, though, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit more than I thought I was going to. I don't remember much about the 90 version other than Angelica Houston. Of course, that was an iconic performance for her. But the CGI in this is very uneven. Sometimes it looks really good, and then other times it looks quite horrendous, quite frankly.
Looks rushed, right?
Yeah, but when it works really good, and some of it's actually really kind of cool. The performances, I think, are fantastic in it. I don't think you could ask for much more. why can't I remember her name? Who's the
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway. Why can't I remember Anne Hathaway, for Christ's
I
sake?
don't know.
But she's way over the top. I mean, she's Disney villain over the top on this.
She is Disney villain over the top.
Yeah,
Oh,
but good. It's fun. I think it worked out really well, and kind of odd thing to enjoy. I loved Chris Rock's narration. I thought that was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. So overall, my first impression is not like the original at all. Yet I'm not sure that that's a bad thing because I enjoyed this.
Ah, there you go. All right, Christopher G. Moore. What is your first impression of The Witches 2020?
This is more Disney Channel than Disney.
Oh, wow.
That's accurate. That is accurate.
Boom.
It's and which is kind of weird because, you know, I mean, Robert Zemeckis has dealt with this kind of cheesy stuff before. You know, he did the Polar Express, so he's done some children's stuff.
Yeah,
and there's parts of this that made me feel like it's like Forrest Mouse, or it's like Forrest Gump in parts. They even Alan Silvestri, who did the music for Forrest Gump, at the very beginning when he's hanging out with his grandma. I mean, there was music that sounded like he aped it from Forrest Gump. And there's even parts like, you know, it's about how you are inside. You know, I just kept expecting him to say, life is like a mouse. You know.
Oh no, Chris.
And then and it's like. It was, and then it just went off into sort of wacky, slapsticky thing, which is the whole time I'm watching this, I was like Vanessa, I was like, this is a kids movie, and I am not the right audience for this. Even though I enjoyed the original Witches, and it still has a little bit of that element of more morbid type stuff. Although, you know, the one chubby kid's almost like. Augustus, what's his name?
Augustus
Gloop from Willy Wonka. You know, to where he's almost
Bruno,
like he's not even a real
Bruno.
character. He's just a character of a old stereotype of a fat kid who just finds every reason to go after food. You know, I kept expecting there to be a chocolate fountain he wants to jump into. And then, the high. I even forgot her name too. What's the high priestess?
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
Can't remember her freaking name.
Who's basically doing the worst version of Foulblucher from Young Frankenstein and the Swedish Chef. There's literally parts where she sounded like whoop. I mean, she sounded like doo-doo. I mean, she's just like I know, literally. There's parts.
She had to have studied Brooks characters, female Brooks characters.
It felt like that, but it wasn't. You know, you can't do what some of those actresses can do. This is like a variation of that, to where it became more of a. It just became so wildly big. It took me out of the film, to where it was just her. She seems to be doing that a lot lately, which is now I can understand why people sometimes hate her. But because now she's just going too big. And then the design of the witches, where her feet are like middle fingers, just kind of creep me out.
It was creepy.
And then the whole time of like the missing their middle fingers and their gloves are still moving like a normal person. I don't know. The whole logistics of it didn't make sense to me. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things to where they make like when they make films for kids and they don't worry about logic or things making sense or story. But
people are turning into mice, so
yeah. I mean, that
little disbelief suspension there going on there.
Well, that's true too. I mean, it's but I don't know. It felt like a mixture of so many things. It didn't really feel like it had a real focus to it. Even though it has all these great stars in it. I mean, I did like the young boy. He just his enthusiasm, even when he became a mouse, I enjoyed that part of it. But I don't know, the other parts just Anne Hathaway just like was so overacting, but it wasn't to the level of like Mel Brooks where you can sort of take it for what it is and enjoy it. So yeah, I would say I'm not a huge fan of this. It definitely made me appreciate Angelica Houston's iteration of that. And yeah, and I think the CGI, even though some of the designs of it were kind of cool, like her dress, it was like part snake, was kind of cool. But again, the CGI stuff, it was so noticeable in parts. It just took me out of it. So, so yeah, and it made me realize this is supposed to be released in theaters. So this looks like Halloween Town. This feels like one of those Disney Channel movies that goes straight to the Disney Channel because they didn't have as much money to make it. So, so yeah, I don't know. It's a very uneven, a very mixed bag of elements that don't really work. It's like a bag of tricks that don't do the things that you want them to do.
Yeah, or at least not for this audience, right?
I'm not the audience for this.
I would imagine
that much.
I would imagine if all of us were still young little whippersnappers, we would enjoy this a little bit more, as they say. Yeah. This movie is, as the young kids say, awkward AF. It is just all over the place, tonally, right? So sometimes it's feeling very serious because not Angelica Houston, Octavia Spencer's character, is starting to get this cough, so you're worried about her health, right? So it's really dire. But then they become mouse, and it's almost like Ratatouille, right? Them running around, and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing here? What am I? And it's very much a kids' film, so it's very much. It didn't capture my attention the way I wanted to. I wasn't really a fan of the first one, but it is kind of ironic, I think, that you look back and Angelica Houston there is now restrained compared to Anne Hathaway, which is kind of like, well, how did that happen? Although I will say that I enjoyed the hell out of Anne Hathaway in her over-the-top performance. Yes, it took me out of the film, but it was so damn funny. I just thought she was just silly. Come in a room and start throwing things around or fly around, and she was absolutely like an over the top Disney villain. I like that. I like that. But it didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And it was also, I don't remember. Well, I don't want to say the conclusion because I don't want to give anything away. I just didn't remember that part of it. But whatever. What am I going to say? This movie is not a horror film in the respect that the first one was. I remember. I mean, it came out when I was a little too old still for that to really get the impression that a lot of people have. I've spoken to a lot of other horror fans where The Witches is one of the scariest films they saw as a kid, right? I don't think this is going to be one of the scariest films people see as a kid, right? At all. Mm-hmm. I think so there's going to be some that enjoy it for, the roller coaster ride of it. Literally, there's a roller coaster ride in this at the end, but they're not going to have that nightmarish quality like The Witches did from back in the 90s. So I'm kind of sad about that. I'm sad that I didn't miss that, but I guess I was looking for, like, I think all of us maybe, that I was looking for a different film than we got.
Yeah, and it just felt so kiddish, like compared to like Scoob. That's a movie that as an adult I could watch again. It's fun. It had some points that are not going to age all that well, but it still had a really great overall story arc, and it can be something that is added to the Scooby-Doo family, right? This, though, you see as a completely different story from the original one, in the sense that it's just so watered down. It felt so watered down to me, and I think it's great for kids. I'm not dogging it at all as a kids movie. I just think if you're gonna take a property like The Witches, it's not fair to kind of bring it down like that, I don't know. It struck me in such a weird way as I was watching it. I didn't laugh and I didn't frown the whole time. It was so just monotone the whole time, and how I was watching that, and that's really, really disappointing. I'd rather feel something, you know. I'd rather really, really hate it or really, really love it, and I'm just so middle of the road with it. I think the best thing about it, though, that I can say is that it has really good message for young kids, you know, about accepting yourself, about moving on, dealing with grief, dealing with sadness, dealing with loss, finding courage. It's all these things that little kids need to hear and need to be encouraged in. And in that way, I thought it was really great. But, you know, past like, I don't know, elementary age, I don't think really it's going to be a movie out there.
That's
I don't
even
know.
younger than I was thinking. Wow, yeah, okay.
Right? I don't really know how this would have done theatrically, honestly, or how it would, like, reviews would have been.
Yeah. It was rated PG, so.
Yeah.
Well, which is actually surprising because it's like they kill that one witch in the one scene, and there's all. I mean, it gets pretty violent, but it's almost like a level of animal cruelty at parts. But then it's like the design of the witches. You know, they went from like this creepy witch face design from the first movie, and then they just have these people with like a bad alopecia rash and weird fingers and middle finger toes on her, and it's like I don't understand the
talons. They're talons, not middle finger toes.
They look like I'm sorry, they're middle finger toes.
They do look like middle finger toes.
That should have got a PG-13 just because of her toes. Because
I missed the noses, right? The nose, the makeup, the warts everywhere.
And I don't understand how just giving her like a Joker scar face or whatever, how that make, you know, unless they turned them into like, if they're going for that, give them like snake mouths or something, do something a little bit different, but just having it to where they have a scar that just opens up and shows more teeth. I mean, it's creepy to look at. I mean, those animated GIFs and stuff I can't watch, but it's like, do something more than that. I don't, yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, granted, they gave the little thing where she had like, the Stretch Armstrong powers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. The design of that didn't really work for me. And then like the ending didn't make sense to where it's like, there's a whole thing where they talk about like, oh, mice live like 3 years, but you might live 3 more. And I was like, you're going to die soon. You're gonna die. How is this a good thing?
Awkward scene.
Yeah, and it's like you have
awkward.
this. I don't want to be spoiler, but there's money you could use to find one of these witches or something and bring them, you know, back or something.
No.
I was like,
mine's forever.
I don't know. And then there's a really bad Photoshop scene towards the end. Just like I was like, what is this? But I don't know. Maybe the kids will like it. Maybe they'll like parts of it because there's a lot of bad green screen in parts. You could tell they weren't near an ocean.
Isn't it like 3 or 4 Academy Tony Award winners in this movie too?
Yeah.
Also, the weird thing is you have that you have the kid mouse, you have the chubby kid mouse, and you have that third mouse. It's a grown adult. It's Kristen Chenoweth.
Yeah.
And the whole time, like at first, I thought it was the phone answer from Ghostbusters at first.
Annie Potts.
And I thought it was Annie Potts, and I was like, no. And then I was like, she sounds like a grown adult. How is it supposed to be? I don't know. I shouldn't be thinking all this logic behind a kids movie that isn't supposed to be.
It's awkward, right? It's awkward.
It is awkward. I do have to agree with Doc and Dave, though. I did like Anne Hathaway's performance, although I think I would have liked it better if they would have just let her do that performance, not amped it up with the CGI, not done all the crazy over-the-top stuff with her voice, but let her do that performance as the actress that she is. I think it would have been a lot better than what we got with her. Like, I don't know. It was too much. They made it too much to where, like y'all are saying, it takes you out of the film at a certain point. I mean, at some point, she's really great. I will say she's really, really great. But like that big scene could have been so much better if they would have just toned it down a little, I think.
Yeah, I like her intro. You know, I think that's the character that she wanted to be most of the movie. You know, really, it was over the top, but wasn't all that craziness. Yeah, the wig thing really bugged me.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt her accent was so like broad and ever changing. It didn't really seem like it was on the same level. And I think if she'd maintained that a little bit more, it would have been better. But I felt like every time I'm like, what is she now? Is she German? Is she Swedish?
Yeah.
What is going on here? And I was like, and then I kept expecting there to be some big thing or to end where she's like, I don't have an accent. I thought that was going to happen because it was so over the top. I was like, I don't believe this person has any specific accent.
That would be funny. It's like she just fixed an accent for.
I thought that was going to be like she's going to take a wig off and start talking normal or something. And I was like, when it didn't, I was like, oh God. I was actually kind of embarrassed for her because it just felt like it felt like the woman from Sunset Boulevard where she's just overacting.
Wow.
I'm ready for my close-up, Zemeckis.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, well let's wrap up this segment with Dave. Dave, because you like to see films with your grandkids a lot, right? Sorry to.
Yeah, well, that's I'm sitting here listening to you guys talking about this, and the point I was going to make was, of all of us sitting here, I'm the only one that sat here and watched it with an 8-year-old.
Oh.
So because she walked into the room as I was watching it, and at this point in time, I'd realized this wasn't a horror movie, this was a kids movie. But she absolutely loved it. She absolutely loved it. So you're 100% right. This is supposed to be a family. This is like a hocus pocus type movie. This is supposed to be one that you can get all the family together and you can all sit around and watch it. And our fun comes from watching them react to it, not from it. So
there's something about that.
When I review this and score this, I'm going to score it based on what I watched my granddaughter do.
Through the eyes of an 8-year-old.
Yeah, because I think that's what this film was made to be. So, we're not the target audience for this. And I think if they had their way, they would have much rather been a theatrical release where the kids could have come into the theater. Hopefully, because HBO, and probably because it was released so quickly, they haven't really done much marketing on this. They haven't really marketed it as a kids.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
So
I think that's a really valid point there. This would have been great kids Halloween time movie.
Yeah. I mean, this is an ABC Family Channel movie is what this is. I mean, and that doesn't necessarily make it bad. And I think, that's the character that I seen Ursula from The Little Mermaid in Anne Hathaway in this. That's what it looked like she was playing that over, and I think she did a pretty good job of pulling that off.
All right. Well, funny. Now's the time we give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. This is the payoff. You stuck with it. Thank you. But first, if you are sticking with it, and I did say thank you, hit the subscribe button down below so you can find out about more. There's a like button. There's also a bell you can smash, they say, and you can find out about more when they come up.
Smash it with your middle finger toe.
Oh yeah, take a picture too. Then you can also leave us some comments, and I'm going to shut up right there. All right, let's give it a go here. Vanessa, you're up first. Your final thought, score, favorite scene.
Oh my goodness. I've had a lot more fun, I think, talking about it with you guys and actually.
Oh well, there you go.
But Dave makes some super valid points. I can absolutely see kids having gotten dressed up in their Halloween costumes and gone to the theater and watched this movie and just had a really great time. And in that context, I think it does a really great job. And like I said earlier, I think the messages that it gets across and some of the topics that it touches on, like racism, are very important and are addressed in a really gentle kind of way for that age group.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, if we're going to look at the other side of the coin and compare it to the one from the 90s, I think it falls really, really short of that. And, on one thing alone, the practical effects versus all the CGI, because the thing that I remember the most about the 90s are those amazing practical effects. Wasn't Frank Oz? Isn't he the one that did
Jim Henson was
Jim Henson. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's a master of his craft, right? In that movie, you really see it. And I miss that a lot in this movie, and I think a lot of people might be expecting that. People our age and people who saw it in their formative years, especially. But that's kind of what remakes are for sometimes, right? To be for a new generation and spread a different message and show things in a different way. Because the mice are super cute in this movie. You have a lot of just over the top characters, and that kind of stuff kind of stays with you when you're a kid, right? And that's the things that you remember and that you enjoy. And for that, I think especially after talking to you guys, I can be a little bit more lenient about it. So I might double score this.
Okay.
Because I think from my personal perspective, in comparison to the one from the 90s, I'd probably give it a 2.75.
Fair.
Through the perspective of this is a kids movie, Halloween time, I think they would have a lot of fun watching it. Dave knows from experience that a kid would have a lot of fun watching it. So based on that, I'd give it a 4.
Okay. That's awesome. All right.
Oh, and favorite scene. Oh my gosh, let me think. There's a few really cute scenes in this.
Yeah, but which one do you choose?
I know. One that really stands out to me that I just thought was really cute and fun is the crochet bag scene. Where our main little mouse has to go down and get the potion and everything so they can try to unmice themselves, demouse themselves. And that just whole little interaction between all of our main characters there was really cute to me. And overall, I really liked Octavia Spencer. I thought she played a really cute grandma. She was a really, consistent message carrier in this show. And she just has a very comforting presence about her.
Yeah, her presence was very important. Like at the beginning when he's orphaned and she comes to pick him up and is like, I want to go home. Am I going to buy a house? And no, you're coming with me. There was this aura of her that was very important for this film. Yeah, I like that. All right, Dave, you're up next, sir. What is your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene?
Final thoughts. I actually enjoyed watching this. I may have enjoyed it a little bit more because I did get to experience it with the target audience that it was meant for. But with that being said, I like anything, especially when it comes to the grandkids, that when it comes to the horror genre, that I'm able to share with them, because so much of what we watch is, let's face it, it's depraved and nasty, and you can't really share it. But a movie like this, or a movie like a Hocus Pocus or something like that, has all those elements in there, and it's a good entry into the genre for kids, and so I like it for that reason, and if for no other. But I enjoyed this as well. I liked the over-the-top performance by Anne Hathaway. I liked it quite a bit, actually. Octavia Spencer is always fantastic. Even some of the periphery characters, who played the manager of the hotel.
Stanley
Tucci.
Stanley Tucci. He was good. I like the scene in the kitchen. Sometimes the CGI works so good, like that whole scene with the mice in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The Ratatouille moment. That looked great. I mean, it looked like they spent a lot of time on that, and then you get a scene where it looks like it was done in someone's basement, with a green towel. So I don't know why that happens, but that happened in this one a couple of different times. But when it's good, it's very good. For favorite scene, I'm going to go with what my granddaughter reacted the most to.
Oh, nice.
And actually, it's an amalgamation of a couple different scenes, but there's a part where Octavia Spencer explains what a witch actually looks like with the wig, and they wear the gloves because they don't have any fingers. And then a little bit later on, we get the actual reveal of that. So as Octavia Spencer, as the grandma, was explaining these things, she was kind of like, I was watching Zoe and she was kind of like, ew, ew, ew. So then we actually see it and it's like, oh my God, So the way those two scenes work together with the kind of narrated description followed not that long after with the actual visual representation of that, I thought worked really, really well.
All right.
And I'm going to give it, I'm going to score it as myself because I don't know how to score it as Zoe. So I'm going to score it for myself, but I'm going to give it a 3.25.
All right, I like that. I real quick, I just wanted to mention that I forgot that the original was directed by Nicholas Roeg, which is crazy because he's the guy behind like Don't Look Now, and Man Who Fell to Earth and films like that. Totally different kind of film, but yeah. So that's the thing. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next, sir. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene. The Witches.
Well, my mama always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. No. Yeah, this is a
The
kids
movie was
movie.
supposed to take place in Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't
guess
mean to talk
so.
over you, Chris. We got a delay.
Oh
It was
no,
supposed to- yeah, they were talking about it being in Alabama.
So that ties into your
well, yeah,
True.
yeah.
Horse
And
mouse.
then
Because
there's even
yeah,
well, there's a part where they trap a mouse in a glass jar, and the book is The Great South. Like, what are they trying to say with that? Yeah, this is a movie. It's definitely a kids movie. I don't know if it's a family movie. Maybe you should just shove your kids in front of it and leave and go play video games in another room, or go drink, maybe.
Oh, parenting 101.
Or maybe play video games on your phone while they're watching it if you are in the family room. I don't have kids, so I would just leave it running and go in the other room. Yeah, so it definitely feels like those, I don't want to say crappy, those cheesy Disney Channel movies. Like I think less Hocus Pocus and more Halloween Town, more of those sort of like lesser ones. I mean, it still has some of the visual flares of some Zemeckis stuff, but it seems like an amalgamation of so many great things, whether it's the Forrest Gump element, whether it's the Ratatouille element, whether it's like all these other greater things that we've seen before. Yeah, I'm sorry, I hate Anne Hathaway in this. I don't think when it comes to great villain characters, I think she's trying too hard, and she seems to lose. She loses the grasp. She should have used some magic on her accent to make it more focused. Because I just kept thinking like Foul Blucher or something, to where that was, yeah, it's just a mess. Especially the parts where she would go into like Swedish chef mode, that was the only part I laughed because it was bad. Yeah, I don't want to crap on this movie anymore, but I don't. Yeah, it's okay. It's a polished mess, but I'll say it's definitely a kids type film. I like Stanley Tucci. It has those slapsticky elements that you find in most kids type films.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the audience for this, so maybe I'll give it 2 scores too, so I'm a little bit more fair. Kids wise, I'll give it a 3. That's
okay.
Gracious.
Yeah, that's generous. Yeah, even.
But me, I'm gonna give it a 1.75.
Ooh,
I'm not a big fan of this.
That sounds like worst of the year movie.
A little bit. Because Zemeckis has come a long way. You think he would have mastered special effects and stuff by now, but this feels like Polar Express dead in the eyes level of, because there's parts where they're outside and you can tell it's a green screen. It's like
yeah, but at least Polar Express was an entirely animated film.
Well, that's true too. I mean, it's definitely progressed. I will say the parts where the mice are running down the hallway and they're trying to get in the door and stuff, I did like that. I did like that aspect of it. That was more interesting to me. I had more problems. I think I had more problems with the actual live action characters, like Anne Hathaway. So maybe they should have made her more like whatever. But I don't know. It's hard for me to even say anything positive about this. I'll say my favorite scene is probably the ratification scene where all the witches turn into.
Yeah, I like the little poof.
I like the
and then they were all angry. I like that they were all angry.
Well,
and
they were just
over.
They were like rabid, like spotted hair and stuff. And I'll say that, like, we say that this film is like more of a kid's, but some of that transformation stuff is very gross. Like when that little when the main kid turns and he's got all those like
whelps and stuff. Yeah,
welts
yeah.
and stuff. It's like it's kind of gross actually. When that one witch gets killed, that's actually pretty gruesome. So, and then when they turn, it's very. I really like it's almost like a fireworks of clothing and rats. And I think that's the only scene that I kind of liked because it felt like a very slapsticky scene from like, like screwball comedies from back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only scene that was kind of redeemable, especially when even when Stanley Tucci's in the middle of it, like a Three Stooges, hotel
the
owner.
exterminator.
Yeah, when he gets bit in the crotch.
Yeah, he does.
So you always like a good bit in the crotch bit. So I'll say that's probably my favorite part of the film, where Anna all the witches get their comeuppance.
All right, I like that. Yeah, this movie is for H&R fans is likely going to be a huge dud. It loses everything the original had going for it to become a cult classic and is watered down. I think that's a good description of it. But at the same time, like Dave is saying, and I think Vanessa and Christopher agree, it is geared toward a target audience, and I think for that target audience, it is fine. It's a movie. It's fine. I didn't, it was okay. It had enough going on in it to keep me entertained, but I don't particularly want to watch it again ever. And even though I'm going to give it a 2.5, I think it still might make my bottom 10. As an honorable mention at the very least, because it just kind of flopped for me so horribly. I enjoyed Anne Hathaway, but I didn't enjoy it because it was good. Right? I want to be clear about that. It's not a good performance. But I enjoyed the hell out of it because it was so just broad out there. It was just crazy. And I was like, well, damn, at least you're entertaining me. Right? I was being entertained. And I just ran with that. I will say I liked the kid. Let's see if I can get his name real quick, just so I can give him some props. Because this is one of his early roles is Jahzir Bruno, and he's going to be in the Christmas Chronicles 2 that we're going to hear in a few weeks on Netflix. So I think he's got a future. I think he does well in this. He's given a lot for an early role. There's a lot of emotion that he has to kind of go with, and I think he does. And Chris Rock surprised me. Chris Rock has been surprising me this year, and I think if Saw Spiral movie would have made it out, I think it would have been a trifecta surprise because he's on Fargo right now, and it's kind of
really good.
It's kind of
right. Who would have thought?
Kind of awesome, right? And
it really makes me want to see the new Saw movie, really, really bad.
So, and I thought he did a great job narrating here. I mean, there was a couple, cliched Chris Rock moments, with his afflection. Yeah. But at the same time, it entertained and kept the story moving. So I don't know. There you go. That's all I'm going to do. Oh, my favorite scene. My favorite scene is the confrontation between Anne Hathaway's witchy character and Octavia Spencer's grandma, and even up to the point with the rat mouse traps, which in this case they're rat traps, and how that all comes along, even to the point where in a very kids movie way, they get her with the the potion, right? It's just like that would not ever happen in a regular movie. Only in a kids movie does that kind of logic work. So I'll just go with that for the hell of it.
I kind of wish they'd gotten Cloris Leachman to play that part instead of.
Oh my god, that would have been brilliant!
You know how amazing that would have been.
That would have been awesome, actually.
But yeah, she's a little bit older. But I'd rather. Well, I'm gonna shut up now.
You're ruining your chances with Anne Hathaway.
I know. What happened?
It's not hurting my feelings.
Is the crush gone? That's not the crush. The crush is the other one, right? The
who?
The Anne Hathaway Jr. What was her name? It doesn't matter.
I have crushes on lots of actresses.
I know.
That's a different segment. Chris's
That's another-
crushes.
My top 10 crushes. Well, that'll be the next episode.
Oh my God,
Chris's
that's,
crushes.
that's another hour. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you so much, Vanessa, Christopher, Dave. This I like how Vanessa put it. This was more fun than watching a movie. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Life is like H&R. Good night.
Direct all emails to Chris at
Chris's crushes at gmail.com.
yes. Oh, good night.